morning to you wherever you're watching us from. This is Atlantic Television Network, and it has been an interesting time in the studio. Now it's time for us to start up with ATN Blowout, and this is a syndicated live program of the network that features chit-chatting and conversations on special interest topics, news, events, and stories through correspondence reports, experts' opinion, and stakeholders' analysis. Let's take a quick peep into the stories we have for you today. We'll delve straight to Bayelsa State today on Blowout, where we'll talk about Navy destroying 10 illegal refining sites. And then in Jigawa State, 3 injured in clash between farmers and herders. And then on National Assembly, Senate will approve presidential jet if requested, Akpabio. And then on education, governors are creating universities they can't fund. This was a statement by ASU president. And then on food shortage, reopen borders for food imports. FCCPC tells federal government. And then minimum wage is still in the news today, where governors are pledging allegiance to minimum wage for workers. We'll introduce our guests and delve straight to the details of these stories and also get to find out what his analysis are. After this break, please stay with us.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
Okay, quick one. I'm eager, like you, to introduce our guest in the studio. We have with us Stephen Okechukwu, and he is a development strategist. Stephen has been our guest on Blowout before now, and it is our pleasure to feature Stephen once again. Good morning, Stephen. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing great.
Drum rolls.
Yeah, there's no
for
need
your introduction. The next time I'll introduce you.
Okay, please. I'll be looking forward to
a lot of effects.
I can't wait for the festivities.
How was the journey down here?
I think it's getting a lot better.
Okay.
I can see the fast pace of work being done on the ring road, what you call my axis and all. So I'm just hoping they're giving us a timeline of 3 years. So we're staying positive that this administration might deliver.
All right, let's see how that plays out. Yeah. Now, let's look at our first story for today. I told you we'll be delving straight to Bayelsa State, where it is recorded or reported that the Nigerian Navy, through its forward operating base in Braz, Bayelsa State, has destroyed 10 illegal refining sites, a speedboat, and a total of 100,000 liters of suspected stolen crude oil in Nembe local government area of Bayelsa State. Now, the commanding officer, forward operating base Formoso, Captain Ifeanyi Chukwu Mabweku, he made this known in an interview with newsmen on Thursday, June 27, during the destruction. Now, he also said that on this aspiration of the Nigerian Navy in disseminating illegal refining sites and crude oil theft in Niger Delta, in his words, and I quote, "My team and I are here to carry out deactivation operation in these illegal refining sites." Now, the worrisome part of this story for some Nigerians, aside the fact that illegal refining is going on, which some people are saying, oh, why don't you legalize it? Yeah. Some people are of that opinion, though. But aside that, the worrisome part of this is that all of these were destroyed. Because from the report, it was said that the refining sites, if we go to the beginning part of that story, that's the very first paragraph of that particular story, you find out where it was stated. Aside Navy destroying 10 illegal refining sites, it was also stated that about 100,000 liters of suspected stolen crude oil that's part of what was destroyed.
That's part of what was
And a
destroyed.
lot of times we hear cases of these trucks carrying this, being set ablaze, and that's a loss.
That's a loss.
Aside any other thing we get to look at. So that's kind of like the worrisome part of this particular story. But I don't know what is the worrisome part of this story for you. So let's get your thoughts.
There are a whole lot of angles when you look at this story to be worried. First, the economic implication,
Yes.
the environmental impact, and even the Navy's, but the general military architecture's body language to modular refineries like this. Now, and sadly, this is not going off anytime soon. One of the major challenges we have in this country is, sometimes I keep asking, how difficult is it for us to just put our environment in check, have enough data that tells us what's going on, when, where, and how it's happening?
It's the data, the intelligence report that takes them there.
Barely a few weeks ago, more like almost every other week here in our dear state, you find stories like this come up in the news. Now, Bielsa alone is having about 10 illegal refining sites. Let us now look at the economic implication. 100,000 liters already destroyed. Why is there no mechanism to recover such? And then let's see how we could put it in proper perspective and see how it could go into the economy legally now. Why? What is on the environmental impact? The Navy destroying all of this. I would say local assets. Because that's what they are. The crude is a national asset. Now you find what you have here. I still wonder how skilled. I mean, our brothers in the creeks, wherever it is, how skilled are they to be able to do this and then succeed in it? When are we going to start saying, oh, look, I see how skilled you guys are. Let us come to the drawing board. Let us go back to the table. Let us discuss this. We've had that talk for a modular refinery. It's been for a while now. The government isn't telling us anything positive yet. And it's good. It's okay to know that there are private investments now going. We're aware that still in Bielsa here, there's a plan for a hydrogen refinery going on. I wouldn't mention. I would try not to mention the firm handling that project. We're aware Dangote also is on board right now. So these are private investments. What will it take for us to start seeing this as private investment? Because I'm sure people invested for that to take place. Now, but then again,
I think until the Constitution or that particular clause is reviewed in the Constitution before we can say it is now like an investment or even call it anything legal. As long as this is concerned for now, it is an illegal activity.
Okay. Now the question is, you can only push a man so far. What you see each time we hear this story, I see it as a wretchedness of our society. People that always feel we've not benefited so much from what we have as a people. This is the outcome of that. We've had the oil sector boom since the 70s up until this moment. Let us go back to the audit. At the time we started having this oil boom, Saudi Arabia was already coming aboard. Go back to the OPEC index. We're nowhere near certain developed countries that were able to develop their countries with the same mineral resources that we're still here destroying. So I still feel that the body language of the government of the day is not helping our situation.
Is it really about the government of the day? Because this has been on for, I think it has been in the Constitution for a long time. And even before this administration, we have been hearing cases of these things being destroyed, after being recovered, they're set on fire. Sometimes we hear cases like that and we're like, what is going on? That thing really sounds really odd to me, and some other Nigerians who have talked against it. But I don't know, I can't really explain it now, unless we can actually have these Navy officials explain to us, why do you destroy these things when you recover them? Why do you destroy them? What happens to returning, or what happens to putting it back, like you said, into the system? And all of those things should actually be looked into. But for the whole crude illegal refining site, do you see that as something that the government can actually put an end to?
I hate to be a bearer of sad tale, but I don't think this is ending anytime soon.
Why do you think so?
This is the Niger Delta. Remember, between 2000, in the early 2000s, when militancy was high, it was very difficult to curb militancy in the creeks. This is less than a decade. The news about illegal refining, not up to 5 years, at least at the speed with which we're seeing it go now. Now the question I ask is, the legal, what do you call it, IOCs, they have a data, I'm sure, of perhaps loopholes where this, what do you call it, this system can be checked. So you know, okay, we have an OML here, we have a flow station here, we have whatever it is, this connection at this point can actually, there is, and I dare call them out, there is Tantita, a security architecture being funded by the federal government to a tune of about 48 billion naira to secure all of these assets. And we're not seeing that. And now you carry on, the Navy would go, obviously the Navy would do what they have to do, protect territorial sovereignty and all that. But then again, the security architecture, that was the private firm that was paid 48 billion naira to look after, to manage these assets, to secure this asset. Because what you see is, each time this happens, you have young men losing their lives, people in the system. You know, there's no protective, there's no personal protective equipment and all that.
So they're even at risk now.
At risk. The environmental hazard and all that. Why can't we have a Niger Delta forum or a stakeholder forum where we could say, okay, look, people who go in for this are members of our community. And I'll tell you a true story. In my local government, about 2 weeks ago, someone I know, she's a lady, got arrested doing this kind of work. Yes. I mean, of the men that were arrested and brought down to Port Harcourt here, she was part of that ring. Now you'd ask yourself, so it's become so bad that women now dare to want to be a part of...
And even children. I've heard cases of children looking up to their uncles or their relatives who are into this, and they're like, oh, they're waiting for they're waiting to grow up and get involved. So the same way we used to look forward to, you know, working in an office when we were much younger with our ideology at that time. That's the same way these kids are looking forward to get involved in this business, because they've seen their relatives who are involved really doing well. And you know, there's this thing going around about school being a scam. So it's like, what's the alternative? This person you know who went to school, still looking for a job till today, but this other person, he got into this business and you see how much he's milking out of it. So it looks like you said, it has really eaten deep into our society. And if anything should be done about it, it should be done fast. And if anything should be done about it, it should be more than just, you know, setting the sites on fire. Because if you set the site on fire, another site will come up tomorrow. So we keep setting all the sites on fire, and our crude oil is wasting. It's actually wasting.
And forgive me, Annie, you know, we're still suffering the brunt of the Ogoni crisis. The cleanup is still ongoing.
Yes.
It is now my earnest prayer and wish that I do pray that by the time we're done with the Ogoni cleanup, we will not have to do pockets of cleanup all over the Niger Delta due to issues like this.
And you know, it's not even just the Ogoni. We have other parts, other communities.
That's why I'm saying I do hope.
That actually needs cleanup right now.
Pockets of cleanup all over the Niger Delta.
Yes, they actually need cleanup right now. And some of these communities, you find that they do not even have basic amenities. You know, we had a traditional ruler from one of the communities in Ogoni who actually also told us what was going on. And he mentioned a particular community not having basic drinking water, not having water. And I'm asking, how are they coping? If that community doesn't have, there's no water, which is basic, right? And then the environment, there's degradation because of these crude oil. Aside crude oil theft now, you know, when the refineries, I've forgotten the word they use for that now, when there's a leak, when there's a leakage. Now this one's not anybody going to steal. There's a leakage, and then the whole area there's a degradation of the area because of that leakage. Now probably a fault from the refinery or from the community, depending on the investigation now.
Yeah.
So that is also another thing that also makes the environment. So if we talk about environmental degradation in the Niger Delta, it's something that should really, really be addressed. If we're going to clean up, you find out that a lot of communities actually need that. Let's look at the next story now, where this particular story is from Jigawa State. We're back from Bayelsa now. Let's go to Jigawa. 3 injured as farmers and herders clash in Jigawa. 3 persons were confirmed injured when farmers and herders clashed around Baranda Forest in Kiyawa, local government area of Jigawa. The State Police Command confirmed this on Thursday. We received information about the incident on Tuesday at about 2:15 p.m. DSP Lawal Shisu, the police public relations officer, said in a statement. And on receipt of the report, in their words, and I quote, the divisional police officer, Kiyawa Division, alongside his patrol team, rushed to the scene. But then, the team included Kiyawa local government officials, chairman of Kautal Hall and Miyeti Allah Association of Farmers of Nigeria. These are the people that made up that team, and the village heads of the 4 affected communities. Now, while dialogue was ongoing among the critical stakeholders, the police team seized the opportunity to identify 3 injured victims, and also, luckily, they were able to rescue 6 others who were about to be attacked. Wow. The PPRO added that the victims were rushed to the hospital and they were treated and discharged. Now, this part, according to him, no arrest was made in connection with the incident in order to avoid further chaos. Maybe I would really need someone to explain this to me, the further chaos that would have come out if an arrest was actually made concerning this particular one in connection. Now, Shisu, however, has said that 2 of the leaders of the headers were identified and will be invited by the police. So that means investigations are on towards this particular issue. Farmers, herders clashes. It seems like this is in the news every day.
It's in the news every day.
It seems like it's in the news every day. When I saw this story, I had to quickly, you know, when I was doing my research concerning the story, I had to quickly check if there was any death recorded. But according to reports from all of the places now that I had to check, there were no deaths recorded. They were just injured. 3 people were injured concerning this. But we've been told that investigations are on, and we really hope that they will go deeper into this. And I hope that arrests will not be evaded because of further chaos, like it was mentioned. But let's get your thoughts on the whole farmer herders clash going on in Nigeria, and probably how we got here in the first place.
Okay, so we must admit that it's very sad. Every time you hear stories about farmers and herders, primarily these 2 sectors within that agri space are very, very key to our economy. Are very, very key to our economy. Now, obviously, Jigawa State is one state that I think they ought to be ranked as one of the most peaceful states in Nigeria. You hardly hear stories about banditry or any of that sort. Farmer-herder clashes just tells you the impact. I need to be careful not to say what goes around comes around. Because down here in the south, it's easy for us to actually want to assume and say, oh, look, these guys just come into our farms arbitrarily and then mess up everything that we have planted. I have witnessed a couple, you know. But now as it concerns...
You've witnessed a couple where?
Yes, a couple where I've witnessed an incident where cows left unattended. You know, the kids that were supposed to manage them left maybe for a few minutes and all, and so they started roaming about, walked into farm and grazed almost everything, messed up an entire farm. I have witnessed it, but here in the Niger Delta, you know, and we've had that, but we've taken that position of, oh look, this happens more often here. But like I said, I do not want to be. I need to be as careful as possible not to say what goes around comes around, because the issue being is that I've also been in Jigawa. I've witnessed how, I think the word there should be how coordinated these things are. I remember running a farm, and then I had some cows just by the boundary of my farm. They didn't walk through. It was like they were properly instructed not to come in. You know, I felt like, so this is possible here and not in my, So if this is happening in Kiawa, it's a local government I do know too. Baranda Forest, I also do know. If this is happening, I feel that the authorities need to go beyond just responding. So we need to be proactive in the sense that what exactly is the issue for farmer herders? Climate change is a very big factor. Let's not downplay it. These cows need to graze a certain kilogram, depending on their size, of forage per day. You don't have, yes, you don't have enough of that. You don't have enough of that in the north, which has resulted in the migration more down south, and then they come down here, there's plenty. And then what you have is very few for so many of the cows over there, very few. So I believe that what we're seeing, or rather what we're witnessing now, is as a result of the very critical issues within this farmer herder crisis that is being left unattended to by the government. Because up till this day, we've not heard, we're yet to see government come to a round table and say, okay, look, Mietiala, you guys come over, the Nigerian Rice Farmers Association or whoever it is, you guys come to the table. How do we work things out here? Because I remember President PMB tried floating the 200-acre ranch per state. It didn't go through because then we had this ideology. Oh, look, giving them lands would require.
Has it? Yes, go on.
It wasn't. That wasn't going to. It wasn't very feasible.
But has it changed?
It hasn't.
Because you said then we had this ideology.
It's still there.
Do we have a different ideology now?
It's still the same ideology, thankfully. And then I learned, I think it was on YouTube, I was watching one of the cattle breeders. He said, look, these cows need to work about. Unfortunately, with the kind of cows we rear in Africa, and I dare say in West Africa, what you need to carry about, you can't have those guys there because it will be, how would you bring in enough forage for them per day?
Okay, Stevie, let me quickly come in here now.
Okay.
You stated that these cows really need to walk about, and the fact that according to you, they don't really have enough there, so they have to come down here where we have a lot of bushes where they can feed on, and people's crops where they can also feed on. But I know that we've had cases of farmer herders clash in the north too, but that's on the side. Now, talking about this now, let's not forget that this is somebody's business.
Both.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
The farmers, they have their own business, the herders. I would want you saying your cows need more food, and your cows, I had to come in where you said the cows need to walk about.
Okay.
So if your cows need to, what is my business? I have my own business.
I get it.
And then I'm a farmer.
Yeah.
I also have to, my farm, let's look at it this way. When you have a bigger farm, you have more produce, right? So do I now encroach into my neighbor's farm because I need more space so I can have more produce?
Okay.
That's my neighbor's land. This is my land. So I work with what I have.
Yeah.
So you don't go into somebody else's business and then you destroy it, someone's livelihood. I saw a video recently of someone screaming and crying out. He had to call the security operatives now. They were trying to chase out these headers. I think they were trying to look for the headers because they were in hiding or something. The cows had already finished the farm. They had brought it down. The guy was seriously crying. This is something that people have invested into, Stephen.
Yeah.
I know you've stayed in the north and you really understand the plight of the herders now, and the fact that their business, you have that understanding. But what about the farmers now?
Okay, so it is very critical for us to determine what our agri sector should look like. Critical as it is, we've obviously had through the different republics we've had different agricultural interventions from the government, the anchor borrowers, the green revolution, a couple of all of this. But what we're here to see is an agri sector, plan that is interested in keeping and maintaining the peace between farmers and herders. it's been one-sided, I dare say. When government brings up agricultural intervention, it's more often than not, it's for sectors such as rice, maize, and all. We've not seen a national plan. I know we make fun of this, the cows, you know, they were found at the airports, the plane, and that. We make fun of that, but we need to tell ourselves the truth. What would you have people with that asset do? It's more like when push comes to shove. They need to be looked into. I'm not in any way supporting the fact that, you know, once in a while, and it's sad anyway, we must call that out, the fact that you have to have kids who are to be in school look after this and not sometimes adults and all. But we actually need to have a more like a national plan. In the same vein that we've had those national plans for people who are going into farming. We need to have that. How do we manage the system? How do we critically operate and then tell ourselves that in any sector, in any place, wherever in this state or in this beautiful country of ours, where you would find farmers and cattle breeders, there will be a system well in place to see that each can operate and then maintain the peace. So we need food sustainability, no doubt.
So, there's someone who came up with a recommendation of having, I think it was you, and I think you were also here when he said that, when he made a recommendation of just having them there. Yeah. If you have that as your business, then get a space for your business.
Get a space.
Get a space for your business. I get a space for my business.
Yeah.
My business know your business, and I don't have any business with your business, and you don't have you likewise. So if you rear cows, then get a space for that, because people have said that even the people who move around with these cows, the herders, are not really the owners sometimes, are not the owners of this. So the owners of the business, and their argument is that these cows are not cheap. So for someone to have that number of these cows, it means that the person has the money to put together where these cows will stay. If I'm going to buy a dog, I don't expect my dog to start going around people's houses. I should get a space where I should keep my dog. I get very upset, using dogs as examples. I get very upset when I'm walking down the street and I see a dog come out of the gate. What's going on here?
Unattended, yes.
This is a wild animal. You don't leave it like that on the street to say, oh, he came out of the gate was open. So that particular man who was making the statement, he was a guest on this show, he is of the opinion that get a space for your business, and that should be it. Do you understand? But do you think that is going to work? Because we're looking for recommendations for the issue that we have been having, because lives are involved now. We've been hearing this, killing this, and all of that.
I think as part of recommendation, what we need is to rejig our national forest system.
Okay.
We just have national forests that we don't know what the wildlife within it looks like. The report says Baranda Forest. That's what's written on the report. Now I dare ask, what is a farmer looking for in a forest? What is a farmer looking for in a forest? We have a national forest in Bielsa, and there are other national. So I believe that I think they're more like nature's blessings to be able to contain this, talking about space now. Because naturally, I think these more like this natural space will do a whole lot, will be a whole lot better to manage our cows.
All right.
Rather than having, as an investor, I need to go find my own space. Because when these guys give birth, you see it multiply way faster than you had ever imagined. So, as part of recommendations here, what can we do with our national forests, and how can we have these guys stay there and just be able to do their thing away from farmers?
Thank you very much, Stephen, for your thoughts on that particular story. Let's look at the next story now. Senate President Godswill Akpabio, he has indicated that the Senate would consider approving the purchase of a new presidential jet if a request is made by the president. Now, Akpabio clarified his stance during Thursday's plenary session in response to criticisms on social media regarding his earlier remarks about the aircraft acquisition. However, Akpabio said there had been no formal request presented to the Senate seeking approval for the acquisition of a presidential plane. So that is, he's kind of like clarifying what he said earlier, because ever since we heard about the presidential jet, the new presidential jet, people have, you know how Nigerians are, they have dug out evidence that there are planes, that the president has planes, and the number of planes, when the last set of planes were sold, when these ones were bought, the fact that it's about 18 and 19 years, the ones that we have available. So they also made discoveries of other countries now, their presidential planes, and how long these planes have been in existence. Okay, they checked a particular country and saw about 30-something years, 25 years, 35 years. So they're like, if this country could have that for up to 35 years, then why do we, after 19 years, want to get new planes, planes? Well, I don't know why it seems like nobody is looking at the part where we have been told that this is actually because of the president's safety.
Okay, so I understand. We need to put that out there, that for the purpose of development, there's a very strong importance. There's an urgent need for the executive arm and the legislature to be in agreement on certain things.
True.
But this is not national development. We understand.
The state of the president is
the state of the president is important. And
the welfare.
Yes, in all fairness to the office of the president of this great nation of ours, Nigeria, we hail you. It is very important that we also look out for the safety of the president, like you said.
Yes.
But desperate times ought to call for very critical, I don't want to use the word desperate measures, but it has to call for very careful measures. Inflation is on the high side. The economy generally isn't doing so well. The body language of the leadership we have at the center speaks a whole lot to the confidence of investors and even of your community. So as a Nigerian in my locale, hearing this coming from the central government, what that tells you that these guys don't even look out for our welfare anymore. And you know, a president that's still looking for, we've not seen, I mean, the presidential yacht was, I believe that has been purchased now, 205 billion. What is the president looking for in water? Perhaps if he's looking to do water travel.
You know that we cannot actually say that.
No.
Because the duty of the president requires that he moves around. And you cannot really say what does he need a jet for or what does he need a yacht. That's the president of a country, a blessed nation.
A blessed nation. We must understand the importance of public finance, especially as it concerns our country. At this point, I would say this over and over again. We've had the oil boom. The same mineral resources that birthed the glory and success of Saudi Arabia today is the very one we're running amok on. How is a presidential jet going to benefit the reputation of this country? Globally, we've been seen as a people that were and it's okay to be a consumer. It's very much okay. But no, it's very much okay because it helps sustain the economy. But
being a consumer helps sustain how? Maybe you have to tell me how.
Okay, so
because I know about production, but consumption?
No. Both ways. We'll talk about that later, but I dare say this.
Right,
being a consumer actually benefits the economy. But what we see here now is, I think there's a need for, and this is me just assuming, that what we've seen so far is a National Assembly that appears very, very robust. Remember, since the days from back when they had to, screen ministerial appointees of the president, and up until this moment, the approval of the yacht, and now the president's jets. I agree with Dele Momodu's position. It's not written in stone that the president of a country must have a jet. It's not written. In fact, it's not even constitutional. You have commercial airliners that that would do this, offer you such services as a business. So what
that's finance again going down, don't you think?
So you have a service I'm paying for.
Because if you say the president has to start paying, come on, why are we not being realistic?
Is the president?
Is it because it's just about the president getting a new aircraft? Is
Okay.
that really the problem? Because even some people who are talking against this, they really haven't done their research.
Okay.
And you get to find out what is your stance on this, and they can't really tell you why. They're just like, oh, the economy is shaking right now, and that's all. Come on, tell me why you think this is not the time.
If you're close to anyone in government, and by government I mean the executive, the very strong executive arm, there's a body language of people just wanting to rip off the system. Now here's what happens. It's a ripple effect. The presidency gets a jet. What you hear is the Senate president decides, oh, my fleet of cars are no longer good for me, so let us also put that in the next budget. State governors will also decide the same. Oh, let us also have
we've
that.
been having
So
state
it
governors
happens.
buying
Let us
SUVs
go back.
for
Let us
their
go back to the immediate past administration.
lawmakers.
Forgive me, but let us go back to the immediate past administration of this dear state. The last administration had 3 vehicles. I call them houses on roads. 3 vehicles. I call them houses. Those vehicles are not up to 7 years old. As it stands, since the current administration came on board, we no longer see those vehicles.
We're
coming.
Okay.
So I'm sure each of those vehicles was not purchased for anything less than 100 million naira, and then you can't find it still functional after 8 years. The jet, like you pointed out, 19 years, you've just investigated a country that has theirs for about 30 years, although I don't endorse that of 30 years. But I do believe that we could always work out mechanisms that would make Nigerians believe that, oh, look, even though, the president came out to tell us on media to tighten our belt, that we're in for tough times and hard times. Well, sorry, our leader, it doesn't appear as though you are part of this train.
What train now? People who are in for tough times?
We're in for tough times.
Okay.
And Nigerians, luckily, I would say luckily, or thankfully rather, we're very patient with government. We're very patient with system. We're very patient. But what we need to start realizing now is that this welfareist ideology would not do us any good for the next decade and beyond. So we have to understand.
If we're very patient people, this is the time for us to exercise more patience, because the president has told us that we need to be patient and we need to be sacrificial at this point, because a lot is actually going on right now. So much is going on. But then the Senate has told us that this wasn't actually brought to their table.
But if you request
if this is brought to their table, of course they would definitely approve it, probably because they understand the importance of this particular venture for the president.
It is my prayer now that I hope this is not a media spin from the Senate president seeking some sort of approval from the president to say, look, whatever you want, we'll give. Politicians, there's always a deal at the back end. Probably this might just be him saying, look, we'll be ready to work with you. Just know that I may also have, certain things I'll need your approval of. So the presidency, thankfully, hasn't asked for this. It's the Senate president saying, according to the report, according to the Senate president. So he's only saying, if he asks, then we will give. Fine. If you're going to bring in Matthew chapter 7, verse 7 here, it's okay. We'll understand. But you also need to understand the importance, the critical importance of putting our national finance in perspective. Let us go back to our debt to GDP ratio. We're not doing so well.
No, we're not.
We're not doing so well. So why would you even want to have this sort of media spin out there and then make all of us believe, oh, this is what Ababio said and all that?
But even putting an end to the farmer headers clash, connecting the first story with this now, that would actually help a lot when we talk about our economy right now. Because even the farmers, which you are actually one of, would agree that I didn't introduce you as that. Next time I'll do that.
Fine, thank you.
Would agree that if we get to look at putting an end to this fight and this clash, which is making a lot of farmers to leave their farms. We've had a hike in the prices of goods and services, and when we talk about aside fuel price and hike in fuel price, which has affected every other thing. When people are asked, when we talk about this, people would say, you planted this in your farm.
Yes.
You're bringing it out. So why is it expensive? But now, aside the fact that they have to pay more for transportation, a lot of farmers are no longer going to their farms because of the fear of being killed or harassed in their own lands, because of these headers. The other day we had some women in a particular eastern state now saying that the government should take away the rights that these herders have to use weapons. So that means these herders, which we have known due to reports, actually go into these farms with weapons. And that is really absurd. We've had cases of them going to the farm, maybe killing the farmer, or if you harass any of them, they will come with their crew to that community, and that's not something that should be treated with kids' glove. True. That's something that should really be looked into. So don't you think that's also going to be an angle that we could go to if we're talking about improving our economy currently?
Okay, so rightly said, that's an angle we'll need to look into. But when you hear that a certain herder has an AK-47 rifle with him, it begs the question, where and how did they get it? And I would maintain this position. We lack, while we have data, we don't have data that can actually be implemented to solve our issues.
Do we even have data?
NBS is there. So while we have data, we don't have very functional data with which we could use to start thinking out solutions for our national issues.
Even sometimes the NBS report, you still get people saying that's not accurate.
We don't. Given the position of the NBS, I would like to urge Nigerians not to doubt. We need to see that as reliable. Although it's very important that we also do our fact findings before. But why give us data? Now, let us go to, from what you said now, the issue of security. I would feel very safe if I see a herder carrying only a stick. But I would feel also rather unsafe seeing a herder come out with a machete and an assault rifle. You know, why do you need a machete? Why do you need an assault rifle? You don't need that to maybe take care of the cows. It's just a stick and then the language and all. So we also do need to ask ourselves, the question has always been, how did we get here? But beyond how did we get here, why are we still, how do we come out from it? And why are we allowing ourselves to slip deeper and deeper into all of this mess?
Because we can't really say it's funding now that is the issue, because we have heard of state governors during this economic situation in Nigeria get SUVs for their lawmakers, not one, not two, even recently. So that makes Nigerians to ask the question, are we really in the times that they have told us we're in? Let's look at the next story now. This story is on ASU. And it is really important that we take a look at yesterday, or was it 2 days ago, we had reports that ASU and the federal government have finally come to a conclusion. Well, the Academic Staff Union of Universities has said that governors are establishing state universities that they cannot fund. The president of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, that's Emmanuel Osodeke, he has stated this in an interview where, according to him, on Thursday actually, where according to him, governors are putting up universities that they cannot fund. And according to him, most governors duplicate universities in their states just to get a piece of the pie from the Tertiary Education Trust Fund. And he said any governor today establishing a university is just eyeing the TED Fund as a source of funding. That's where their eyes are. He said through TED Fund, though TED Fund is supposed to be an intervention fund for public universities, politicians and civil servants have been using the fund as a cash cow to be milked dry through shady procurement processes and contract fraud. These are serious allegations that have been laid here, and talking about fraud going on here, and also talking about governors just setting up universities because their eyes are on the third fund,
Yeah.
and this is something that should be looked into, and more investigation should be made. Would like to hear more about this story. Would like to get more developments from this particular story, but governors putting up universities just to get more funds.
Okay, so Professor Emmanuel Oshodike has made a very, very serious allegation. It's, knowing the country we're in, it's hard to say it's untrue. It's hard to say it's untrue, knowing the country that we are.
You know, when Nigerians hear cases like this, they don't even want to investigate. They just agree.
It's hard
It's true
to say it's untrue.
Yeah.
But then again, I kind of agree to an extent with ASU's plight, to a good extent. We don't need more universities in this country.
We do not need.
We don't need more universities.
Why do you think we don't need more universities?
Universities. Okay, so if you're taking, I'm definitely sure you're in the media. You definitely would have observed the fact that universities are becoming, even the private sector is taking more and more interest in having universities set up. There's a university along the Port Harcourt-Aba Expressway that I am definitely sure they don't have up to 400 students there.
But you would agree that private universities are more expensive than public universities, and not everybody can afford private universities.
That's on that basis. So the thing is, just like what's happening to our basic education sector, where the government is unable to give primary education, basic education to its citizens, but private investors, private individuals are able to set up nice architectures, put up good curricula that would serve the need of parents, and then obviously you get to pay the money for it. I pray that wouldn't be what we'll see with in our tertiary institutions. The allegation before before state governors, as it is, we need to hear them come out and debunk it. But then it will be tough for them to debunk it, in the sense that it is in this river state of ours where we saw a certain administration redesign what ought to have been architecture for basic education, and then made those infrastructure available to a state-owned university. The ripple effect is that people now go over to those environments, and we're yet to see, it's been 2 years after, we're yet to see the outcome of that decision. So if ASU's leadership is coming on to say this, it's a very, very strong allegation. Like I said, that it's difficult to say it's untrue. So why do we need more universities in the first place? When you have a system that is asking for proper funding of what you currently have, so the right curricula and then the good quality education can be served on members of that community. The academic staff, the non-academic staff would have a system well in place that is able to manage the things that they need to function and operate effectively. It's not so much about how many, but how well. It's not so much. Currently, like I said earlier, I believe that data must have increased. There's about 122 plus tertiary institutions in this country, universities alone. What is the quality of graduates coming out from those institutions? Oshodoke's allegation is that state governors are eyeing TED fund. How is TED fund getting how are they able to raise funds being given back to the institution? So we're just running in a circle. We're running in a circle. Why would you, and at this point it is critical that politicians need to start, he also did allege that not just the political class, but people within the bureaucratic system to help to facilitate all of this. The public sector is suffering. They need to come out and say, Chuks Wenze was right when he said that the state of corruption in this country is deeper. It's now so institutional that you can't blame the politician alone. So thankfully, members of ASU are people who operate in this very key sector, and they are coming on to say, no, look, you don't need more universities. I am sure, I would like to believe that if the universities get what they need to operate, they'll be able to deliver not just the knowledge there, but quality knowledge that will be relevant to our society.
But let's look at the new universities that were set up, the other universities that were set up by these governors. You would agree that they would definitely get to employ a lot of people, more hands. And you would also agree that in some of our public universities, right, the hostels are usually congested. You have so many students in one room. And then, aside the fact that you have so many students in one room, they all have to share the same toilets. And aside that, a lot of other students have not even had the opportunity to get a hostel space.
Okay.
You've been in a public university, so you know how difficult it can be sometimes to get a hostel space. So if more universities are being put up, since we don't want to build more hostels and then manage the ones we have, don't you think this is going to be a way to stop or put an end to some of the issues and problems that we have in the already established universities, public universities now?
Okay, so let me go back to Sir Akudo Eresia's poet. It says, it's not what you do, but it's not what you have, but what you do, what you have.
Okay.
So we do have universities. You've just given us a good analysis of what happens in our public universities, the hostel space and all of that. But then I ask you this question: if we have to keep building universities to be able to contain, and then when exactly are we going to stop? What I want to see is a system where our university system will be competitive enough to want to grow in global rankings and all of that. I used to have a teacher who would tell me that education is not compulsory, but very necessary. And the reality is, we don't need so much of a university education. If this country ought to have been, if we're taking advantage of what we have in this country, technical education ought to be given key priorities. You don't see people come up from our GTC, government technical colleges, doing so well. You know, there's this idea that everybody, I'm not saying nobody should go after that, but now you have a country where a lot of persons who actually want to have a degree is just for, in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's just for the self-esteem level. It's not so much about what we do with the knowledge we have in society. Go back and and I dare you, go back and do an analysis of persons pursuing a doctorate right now in this country, just so, in my dear state, let me not allege further, within my dear state, just so they could relax and get a lecturing job.
Wow.
So how made it good?
So people go to school so they can get a lecturing job.
Just get a lecturing job. Wait until you get into public service.
Some other people just want to get the degree. And then we also have other people who just read to pass.
Read to pass.
You know, when people say I read to pass,
yes.
I didn't read to know.
To know,
so
yes.
when you ask them questions, they can't really give answers because they just read to pass.
To pass. So will it be too difficult? Forgive me. Will it be too difficult for us to come up with a framework that says, look, I'm not saying people shouldn't go to school. I'm only saying, for whatever reason you're in that system, the system has to be well managed so we get to see how it's solving our needs per time. I would rather recommend that the framework we need at this point is a framework that is able to cater for, if you have 300 students in a particular session, in a department, in a particular year rather, and then you have a class space that is not able to contain them, how can we shuffle them to see that the lecturer is able to take a ratio of 50-50, different lecturers for the particular course, rather than ask everybody to come as, oh, come or you're faithful. You don't need that anymore. You know, you can actually learn. Thank God for IT, the tech space, digital space. It's giving us a whole lot of leverage, but we're not taking advantage of that. So, like I said, and I would maintain, while I agree with Oshodeke's allegation, I also would say that it's very, very difficult to say it's untrue. State governors asking, maybe having their mind set on TED Fund, should also be worried about how is TED Fund able to raise that money that they want to actually use. Because what you have is, oh, we've just built a nice building. We have all of these facilities, but my issue in this country is sustainability in the long run.
For the ASU and the federal government also for some time now, even though they've had a meeting where it looks like they have come to an agreement where the federal government has said that we would address the issues that you have brought to the table. ASU personnel are saying this is not the first time we're having such a meeting.
It's not.
And this is not the first time that the federal government are telling us, don't worry, we're going to solve the problems.
Yeah.
And this is not the first time. So they're actually looking forward to the government keeping to their words while they have crossed fingers. But let's also look at their demands now. I know they have mentioned a lot of things. Oh, keep to your 2009 promise.
Yes.
The age range that was mentioned in that
Yes.
commission and many other things.
Yes.
Their demands. Do you think that ASU are really, like they have told us, advocating for the educational system as a whole, or for the students now, you know, the well-being of the students more than their own personal needs?
Okay, so the reality is that you would never have a solution that will last forever. As at the time ASU made all of that resolution in 2009 with the government of the day, it was okay. I'm sure between then up until this moment, a whole lot would have changed that would require going back to the table and saying, look, this is this and all that.
They're even saying keep to that one. They're not even saying change it.
Okay, so
The promises. I went back to that commission. I think the Briefs Commission. Yes. I went back to that commission and I read through and I found out that these things that are stated here, an agreement of 2009, yes, these are still the same things that ASU still asking of in 2024.
sad.
So many years after.
Very
So they're not even saying upgrade it. They're not even saying update it. They're saying just keep to this promise of the government of the day at that time. Even though Nigerians have said that these particular promises of the government of the day at that time are beautiful promises, and if they had been kept to, many of the strike actions that we had ASU undertaken since that period would not have, and this has affected a lot of students. They had to spend more years in school. A lot of students had to stay home for a very long time. I don't know if the ASU strike ever affected you in school.
Yeah, it did.
But I was talking about the ASU strike affecting me when I was in school for about 6 months, and then someone told me how he stayed at home for a year. And I'm like, so people had to stay that long at home. This was an agreement and same promise by the federal government.
Allow me.
So they're not even saying change it.
Yes.
They're saying do the same things. ASU is not saying go back and change whatever. Pay us our salaries. They even said that some people were, that's the University of Port Harcourt ASU now, where they stated that some lecturers were promoted as professors, but then they have still not been paid as professors for 30 to 40 months. That is over a year. What am I saying?
Over 3 years.
This is just 12 months in a year. That's way over that.
3 years.
So that's a lot that these people are asking for. And if you go back to that commission, you still see that salary is basic.
Very basic.
They're saying fund our universities for research and all of those things. But then, even though their demands are looking like they're interested in the educational system, people are still saying these people have their interest. They're just using the students as a camouflage. So that's what I'm trying to find out, if you're also in agreement with that statement.
Okay, so if, as we have in our current situation, a resolution that has recommended what the federal government ought to do for the system, that resolution is coming at a time where there's been, like I've always maintained, a global call to increase our budget for the education sector generally. We are yet to see that. And we still have to keep advocating for that. Make this 26-27% of your national budget as against the 6% you keep having. So on the basis of professors, not having their salaries within their promotion salaries to space about 30 to 40 months, I'm correct. It just tells you how it reveals the loopholes in that system. So we don't even have a very strict audit mechanism that says, oh, look, this has happened. This has to be, cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. We don't have such sort of projections. It means the federal government has a lot on its table to do. And I'm praying that we would, in this decade, before this decade runs out, we would see the 2009 resolution come and play.
We also hope that happens. But let's take some time off now. We'll go on a short break, and when we return, the conversation continues on ATN Blowout. Please do not go anywhere.
from the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains. Through the Sahara, we bring on sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
Every day our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics,
Nobody's ambition is what they blood.
I have fought very firmly.
natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
You human
on the point of order.
Honorable
They are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. On ATN.
Every day our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics,
Nobody's ambition is what the blood.
I have fought very firmly.
natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATN.
Good morning to you if you're just joining us at Atlantic Television Network. It's ATN Blowout, and we took some time off, and then we are back to continue with the show. We have this story: the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, that's the FCCPC. They have appealed to the federal government to actually reopen the country's borders to allow legitimate importation of food items to combat hunger amongst Nigerians. The commission made the call during an advocacy meeting with the traditional rulers and other stakeholders held at the MRS Palace in Bauchi State. Now, acting executive chairman of the commission, Adamu Abdullahi, highlighted the FCCPC's ongoing efforts in advocacy and public awareness regarding price gouging and other unfair trade practices in Nigerian markets. Now, he also explains that the Commission's visit aimed to sensitize stakeholders on their rights and also to help them identify counterfeit products and proper channels for lodging complaints. Please, let's hold it there. When you talk about proper channels for lodging products and knowing the right products now, being able to identify counterfeit, a lot of Nigerians do not know this. A lot of Nigerians do not know the difference between the original products and the fake products. Okay. And then even when they know, do you know that some Nigerians do not even know that they can report some certain cases?
Okay, yeah.
And they don't even know that there are certain people they can, because some know they can report, but they don't know who to report to. So this awareness being created is really very important. Can we go back to that particular part of that story where we were told that they had to put that together now to be able to sensitize the public on what exactly an original product has that a fake product does not have, and also get to understand that you can report some of these issues. You know, the commission made the call during the advocacy meeting, like I said earlier, with the traditional rulers. This happened in Bauchi State, and the acting executive chairman of the commission, he highlighted FCCP's ongoing efforts in advocacy and public awareness that's regarding price gouging and other unfair trade practices in the Nigerian market. Now, this is the part I got to explain where he said this is it is aimed at sensitizing stakeholders and other on their rights and help them identify these products. Now, he mentioned that reopening the borders will facilitate food importation, potentially stabilizing market prices. Now, this is the part I would really like us to focus on. The part where he has said that reopening the borders would help, you know, where we can import food products. And these will in turn help stabilize market prices because food products are up there. Is this a way out of the issue we have concerning inflation in food prices?
You know, at this point, we no longer know what will work. We've tried, you know, food importation. We felt this wasn't the best way to go. The PNB administration tried, okay, look, we will be able to, you know, produce our own rice and have that in surplus amounts. Well, here we are today. Well, let me first point something out in the story before coming back to where we are. It is not proper, and I would say it again, it wasn't proper for Mr. Abdullahi to go before traditional rulers in Bauchi State and make a recommendation to the federal government. You are an agency of the federal government. Why not make that directly to the government you're serving under? Why to traditional rulers or stakeholders at an engagement? First, we need to call that out and say it wasn't proper. Also, you mentioned the issue of Nigerians not knowing how to distinguish good products, fake products, and all of that. Well, the truth is, let me take the position of a Nigerian who just feel that if the social contract was really doing its job, we would not have to worry about whether the product I find at the pharmaceutical store, at the grocery store, or any other place in this country is fake or not. You have customs who ought to do their job. You have the NAFDAC regulating the pharmaceutical sector. You have the FCCPC.
You have the SON.
SON. You have all of these agencies. If they all come together, the NOA, National Retention Agency, that actually ought to do the campaign, okay, look, you guys should know exactly what's happening. You have all of this. So either by collaboration or just being focused, delivering the tasks, the mandate they each have been given. As a Nigerian, I do not think I'll be so worried about whether what I get from the market is authentic, is original enough for me to use. On the issue of the FCCPC asking the federal government to reopen the borders as to curb inflation and hiking food prices, remember that what is given to us by way of import or by reason of import from economies that feel like they have enough and they have so much in surplus to actually want to give out. It would say in Niger State, what you call a military administration under Traore that is asking for border closure, and so food will not be imported. Food will not be imported into Nigeria. Just here in Niger, sorry, I'm saying Niger State. Forgive me, Niger. Now the FCCPC coming on to say this begs the question: how difficult is it for us to actually give ourselves a nudge and say, look, we'll be able to produce enough for this country for export? I'm aware that we export, no matter how minimal, to other countries, especially when it comes to Nigerians abroad, the food sector. You know, some Nigerian kitchen out in London or anywhere. I'm aware. So how difficult will that be for us to increase what we currently have? The campaign run by the Labour Party was about production and security. Production and security. This would impact negatively. The FCCP's recommendation to the FG would impact negatively on an ideology that's looking to increase production. So yes, we've gone that route of it was so bad that we had to even import cars.
We import a lot of things.
We import a lot of things.
And I'm very sure we also import food products.
We do.
And we import food products that we even produce here. We still import them. So actually saying that we should legalize this so we can import more, it can be legal for us to import more food products into Nigeria at this time when the economy is at this stage. I don't think that is a part where we should actually get to look at, because a lot of stakeholders have said, let us improve productivity. And everybody agrees that when it comes to agriculture, you can make so much money from it. Before oil was discovered, a Munich that was signed by the NGF's chairman and governor of Kwara State, Abdurrahman Abdurrazak. So minimum wage / living wage. Some people do not want to talk about minimum wage. They want to talk about living wage. They're saying these people are not just asking for a minimum wage. They are asking for a living wage. So the governors were actually supposed to have a meeting with the president, but before then, they decided to have their own meeting concerning the issues of minimum wage. You would agree that some governors have stated that they cannot pay the amounts that the federal government has stated. They can't even pay it. So they're like, let's meet, let's talk about these. Although they had other conversations about other developmental steps that need to be taken in their states, but they also talked about the minimum wage. Governors pledging allegiance to minimum wage for workers. A lot of the governors have not paid the previous minimum wage, and now they're pledging allegiance to minimum wage for workers. It means whatever comes out, they would actually go with it, hopefully. I'm assuming that is what they mean, but what do you deduce out of this story?
It is, at this point, our prayer that the government of the day would see the importance of preserving the dignity of the Nigerian worker. It is very, very sad, the sorry state we're in, where you work and you earn something that is not able to manage manage your affairs for the period. I think that I also would like to recommend that if the 25-day work structure isn't working in this economy, why don't we do the fortnight issue? Every 2 weeks you're getting a quarter of your salary and all of that. Edo State has gone on to rather be very proactive by increasing it to 70,000 naira. And then, but the question is, if a state complaining of being one of the states that isn't getting so much of the national cake, can do this, how about other states that are well-to-do? So, I feel that when governors come out to say things like this, I really don't think they're all in agreement. It's just that, oh, it's politics, so we have to actually take a position. It's politics, so we actually have to let people know what we feel and what we feel about this. It is just an appeal, and on that note I'll end, because we've said a whole lot on all of this issue, the living wage, the minimum wage, and all of that. When you find workers, the ILO has, International Labour Organization, has certain global recommendations to government employees globally.
Yeah.
Why is it that when we go over to this table, sit, you hear, these very wonderful ideas, but whenever you come back home, you're unable to implement it?
Some of the governors have complained that they do not have enough, they do not generate enough internally for them to be able to pay workers.
Okay, so let us figure something out here now. A state such as our dear River State, the governor just announced that we've increased our IGR from about 12 billion to about 26 to 27 billion. What is the ratio of our, what does it cost us to be able to pay for our workers every single month? So if we can get that from IGR, how about other sectors where we're able to generate funds?
Now there are other states that do not make that much, and even their federal allocations not so much compared to other states, because the states are not paid the same federal allocation. So that is their argument, that even with their own federal allocation, plus their internally